Have you ever felt that the way you manage a construction site is common sense, yet the exam questions seem to speak a completely different language? You aren't alone. For most chartered engineers and site leads, the daily reality is physical. It's about building the structure, solving the immediate mechanical problem, and quite literally moving the dirt to meet a deadline. This is the engineer's reality, and while it's what gets bridges built, it is often the very thing that causes candidates to fail professional project management exams. To succeed here, we have to bridge a significant gap. The Project Management Institute, or PMI, doesn't just want to know if you can pour concrete. They want to know if you can execute a high-level strategy. In the PMI reality, your job isn't just solving problems, it's managing specific constraints like risk, quality, and stakeholder expectations. It's about following a rigorous, documented plan rather than relying on the gut instinct that served you well in the field. This matters because the exam is written for a strategic executive, not a site superintendent. If you answer questions based on what you would do in the mud at 6 a.m., you will likely choose the wrong answer. Throughout this course, we are going to rewire your thinking. We will take your invaluable physical experience and frame it within the strategic architecture required for global certification. Let's start by defining exactly what a project is and, more importantly, what it isn't. What defines a project? In an engineering firm, the lines often get blurred because we are always working. However, PMI draws a very sharp boundary between project work and operations. A project is defined as a temporary endeavor. It must have a definite beginning and a definite end. It is designed to create a unique product, service, or result. Whether it's a new skyscraper or a specialized structural audit, if it has a finish line and a unique outcome, it's a project. Now contrast this with the operation. Operations are the ongoing, repetitive activities that keep an organization running. Think of the production line or the maintenance department. These are continuous and do not result in a unique deliverable. They result in standardized output. This distinction is a frequent trap for technical professionals. You might think, well, my team pours concrete every single day, so that's just part of our project work. From a PMI perspective, that is wrong thinking. To pass the exam, you must adopt PMI thinking. Look at it this way. Pouring the specific foundation for Bridge A is a project because that bridge is a unique deliverable with a set schedule. However, running the batching plant that supplies the concrete for every bridge in the county is an operation. The plant doesn't stop when Bridge A is finished. It keeps running. Understanding this boundary is the first step in knowing which management tools to apply. Next, we'll look at why organizations even bother starting projects in the first place. If you ask a site lead why they are drilling piles, they'll tell you they are building a foundation. But if you ask a strategic executive, they'll give you a different answer. In the world of professional project management, projects do not exist just to build things. They exist to act as a catalyst for an organizational state change. Think of a project as a bridge between two realities. On one side, you have the current state. This is the before picture. Perhaps an organization lacks the capacity to reach a new market, or a city has a gap in its infrastructure that causes economic delays. To get to the future state, where the objective is achieved and value is realized, the organization must perform project activities. This is a vital mental shift for engineers. The physical deliverable, the bridge, the road, the dam, is just the mechanism. The true goal is the movement of the organization from point A to point B. This matters because if you finish the thing, but the organization hasn't actually changed its state for the better, the project has technically failed in the eyes of the stakeholders. This leads us directly to the concept of business value. Every project must deliver business value. But what does that actually mean in an engineering context? PMI defines it as the net quantifiable benefit derived from a business endeavor. It's the profit of the project, but not just in dollars and cents. We divide this value into two categories: tangible and intangible. Tangible benefits are easy to measure. These are your monetary assets, your fixtures, or your market share. For a power plant project, the tangible benefit is the exact number of megawatts generated for the grid. However, modern project management and the CAPM or PMP exams place a massive emphasis on intangible benefits. This includes things like brand reputation, strategic alignment, and environmental sustainability. This brings us to a key concept you must memorize: the triple bottom line. PMI demands that project planning actively considers social and environmental impacts along with financial return. If a project makes $10 million but destroys a local ecosystem, its business value is severely compromised in the PMI framework. As an engineer, you must look beyond the blueprints and ask, how does this project improve the world and the company's reputation? Now that we know what value is, let's look at the 4 specific reasons a project gets started. Why does a project start? It's never random. According to the PMI framework, every single project originates from one of 4 strategic catalysts. Understanding these helps you identify the primary goal of your project from day one. First, we have regulatory or legal requirements. Imagine a new EPA mandate requires a chemical plant to retrofit its entire drainage system. The plant doesn't necessarily want to spend the money, but the project is initiated to ensure legal compliance. Second is business strategy. A logistics company might fund a new automated rail hub specifically to outpace a competitor's delivery times. Here, the project is a weapon used to gain a market advantage. The third catalyst is satisfying a stakeholder need. A classic example is a municipal government building a new potable water system because voters in an expanding suburb demand it. Finally, we have the fix or improve catalyst. If a municipal bridge develops structural cracks, that physical failure triggers an immediate repair project. As you prepare for the exam, look at every scenario and ask, which catalyst is at play here? Is this a must-do for the law or a want-to-do for the strategy? Knowing the origin story of your project changes how you manage its risks. Now, let's look at the engine block that holds all these projects together. Individual projects don't exist in a vacuum. They exist within an organization. This is where organizational project management, or OPM, comes in. Think of OPM as the engine block of a company. If the individual projects are the gears, OPM is the frame and the oil that ensures those gears actually drive the vehicle forward. OPM is a structural framework that integrates 3 things: portfolio, program, and project management. It's not just about doing one job well. It's about creating a system where every project produces better performance and a sustainable competitive advantage. Without OPM, an engineering firm might have 10 great project managers all working in different directions, wasting resources and failing to meet the CEO's goals. When you see the term OPM on the exam, think of strategic alignment. It's the tool high-level executives use to ensure that the money spent on a bridge repair or a new software rollout actually supports the long-term vision of the company. To understand how OPM works in practice, we need to look at the hierarchy of how work is actually organized. This is one of the most important slides for your foundational knowledge. PMI organizes work into a hierarchy: portfolios, programs, and projects. If you can distinguish these 3, you will easily navigate a large portion of the exam questions. At the top, we have the portfolio. The focus here is on doing the right work. A portfolio manager looks at every possible project and asks which ones will give us the most value and align with our strategy. They optimize resource allocation across the entire company. Next, we have the program. The focus here is doing work together. A program is a group of related projects managed in a coordinated way. Why? Because managing them together gives you benefits you couldn't get if you managed them individually, like sharing specialized heavy machinery across 3 different bridge sites. Finally, we have the project. The focus here is doing the work right. This is the temporary endeavor to create that unique deliverable. Think of it this way. The project produces the output. The program coordinates the benefits, and the portfolio ensures it all adds up to the highest possible value for the company. Now, let's look at a common mistake engineers make when identifying these levels. Here is a pro tip for your exam prep. Size does not equal a program. This is what we call the scale trap. Many engineers see a multi-billion-dollar, highly complex infrastructure build and automatically think this is so big it must be a program. This is wrong thinking. In the PMI world, a $3 billion airport terminal, even with 50 subcontractors, is still a single massive project because it has one primary unique deliverable. To be a program, you must have multiple related projects managed for interdependency benefits. PMI thinking looks like this. Building the terminal is a project. Building the new highway to the terminal is another project. Building the rail link is a third. If you manage all 3 together so you can share heavy equipment and minimize traffic disruption in the whole region, that is a program. Don't be fooled by the price tag on the exam. Look for the coordination of multiple deliverables. If it's just one big thing, it's a project. Now we get into the gears of the project management engine, the 5 process groups. You might have heard the acronym IPEC: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. First, let's clear up the biggest misconception. Process groups are not chronological project phases. You don't just do initiating in month 1 and do closing in month 12. Instead, these are cognitive engines running continuously inside every part of the project. Initiating is about defining and authorizing the work. Planning is where you establish the scope and the course of action. Executing is the actual doing, the physical work. Monitoring and controlling is the watchdog process, where you track progress and manage changes. And closing is the formal shutdown of a phase or the whole project. Think of these like the gears in a car's transmission. They are always present, ensuring the power gets to the wheels. Depending on the type of project, you might engage these gears differently, which leads us to life cycles. Not every project is managed the same way. We look at this through the life cycle spectrum. On one end, we have the predictive or waterfall approach. This is the traditional engineering bread and butter. Scope, time, and cost are determined very early, and changes are heavily restricted. If you are pouring a concrete foundation, you must use a predictive model because you can't unpour the concrete later. On the other end is the adaptive or agile approach. Here, the scope is outlined in small chunks called iterations. It's designed to respond rapidly to change. This is perfect for developing the software that might run a highway sensor system. In the middle, we have the hybrid approach. This is becoming the standard for modern infrastructure. You might use a predictive model for the physical road construction, but an adaptive model for the evolving sensor technology. The takeaway here is that all life cycles require planning. Don't let an exam question trick you into thinking Agile means no planning. The difference is simply when the planning happens and how much change the project can tolerate. When we have a massive, multi-year infrastructure project, we can't just look at it as one giant task. We break it into project phases. A phase is a collection of logically related activities that ends with a major deliverable. Common phase names in our industry include feasibility, design, build, and commissioning. Each phase has specific attributes, a fixed duration, resource requirements, and, most importantly, entrance and exit criteria. This means you shouldn't start the build phase until the design phase has met its quality checks. Phases can be sequential, one after the other, or they can overlap to save time, which we call fast tracking. Why do we do this? Because it provides better executive management control. It allows the leadership to pause and evaluate the project at specific intervals. These intervals are called phase gates, and they are critical for the exam. A phase gate is the moment of truth. It is a review held at the very end of a project phase, where performance is compared against the original business case and the project charter. In the field, we often treat milestones as just dates on a calendar. But in the PMI framework, a phase gate is an active diagnostic test. It's the exact moment the organization asks, does this project still make business sense before we spend another $1 million? There are only 3 real outcomes at a phase gate. You continue to the next phase, you continue but with modifications to the plan, or, and this is the one engineers hate, you terminate the project entirely. If the market has changed or the costs have doubled, the most professional thing a project manager can do is recommend stopping. This is a huge test of your strategic executive mindset. Here is another major exam trap. Candidates often confuse process groups with phase gates because they both happen near the end of a phase. Let's distinguish them clearly. Process groups are about action, while phase gates are about judgment. Wrong thinking sounds like this. We are at the end of the design phase, so we are now in the closing process group, which is our phase gate. That's incorrect. PMI thinking recognizes that the closing process group is the set of actions you take to formally archive documents and release the design team. The phase gate, however, is the executive review that happens after or during that closing to decide if the project is still viable. Think of it this way. Closing is doing the work of finishing. The phase gate is judging if the work was worth it. One is administrative, the other is strategic. Let's put your instincts to the test with a realistic scenario. You are managing a $40 million bridge reinforcement project. You've just finished the structural analysis phase, but there's a problem. The team discovered unexpected bedrock fractures. This discovery shifts your cost forecast up by 20%. You are in a review right now. What is its primary purpose? Is it A, to immediately start fixing the fractures? Is it B, to compare performance to the business case for a go-no-go decision? Is it C, to move the project into a portfolio? Or D, to change the life cycle to adaptive? The correct answer is B. This is a phase gate review. The engineer's trap is option A, acting immediately to solve the technical problem. While that feels right on a job site, the PMI mindset demands that you first evaluate if the project is still worth doing with a 20% price hike. You must consult the business case before you authorize the next phase of spending. To wrap up this foundation module, let's solidify your memory anchors. These are the core concepts that will keep you grounded when the exam questions get complex. First, remember that projects build the plant, but operations run the plant. Second, business value isn't just about money. It's the triple bottom line of finance, society, and the environment. Third, OPM is the engine that ensures your projects aren't just random acts of building, but are linked to company strategy. When it comes to the hierarchy, remember, portfolios pick the right work, programs coordinate the work, and projects execute the work correctly. Inside every phase of that work, you have the 5 gears of IPEC: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. And finally, never skip the executive toll booth, the phase gate, which tests if a project is still viable. Your final takeaway for today is this. In the world of PMI, you must analyze first and act second. Follow the framework over the site shortcut, and you will find the path to certification much smoother.